Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. Today's episode of Rules for Retrogrades is an update from the Synod on Synodality. As you know, it's bad news. We'll be updating essentially for the Monday and Tuesday sections of the Synod. That is yesterday and today. There's been enough news to go around, but we decided not to go yesterday. We figured gather all the bad news scrapings like barnacles from a ship from yesterday and today. I promise, as I promised before, I will go live if there's anything that's singularly big. A little bit ago, Michael Haynes reported that he asked this question to the CLAM president. That is the Amazonian RITE person who's in charge of making this new Amazonian RITE. Cardinal-elect Jaime Spangler, about when can we expect the Amazonian RITE? And it was at the Synod presser, and what I want to remind you all, just so that it sticks in your craw as much as it does mine, think of it this way. As Pope Francis is really disabling, diswiring, disconnecting, destroying the TLM RITE that we've had since at least Gregory the Great, that we love so much, you know, the main sort of only longest lasting single rite of the Roman Catholic Missal, they're creating this nonsensical Amazonian RITE. And here's what was asked. Just make sure you can hear this.
At that time in
Here's what Michael Haynes asks.
Michael Haynes for LifeSite News. To any of the cardinals-elects, congratulations, first of all.
Tell me if you can't hear this, if you're just sitting there listening to silence, say it in the chat box, retrogrades.
Cardinal Hollerich spoke earlier this week about moving from the pyramid-style exercise of authority to a more synodal one. I wonder, could you give an idea of what that might look like in practice? And also to Cardinal-elect Spengler, as president of CLAM, could you give any update or further details about the Amazonian rite of the Mass? I know Father Briganti mentioned to Villanueva a few weeks ago that it was going to begin a trial phase. So if you had any further details on that would be wonderful.
I don't speak English. Dan, can you?
I'll skip to the English train.
So at the moment, we are talking about the possibility of an Amazonian rite. It's a ritual. It's true that we have communities in several areas where it takes days, weeks, and even months or years even without people being able to celebrate their Eucharist, to participate in the celebration of the Eucharist. It's true that in the current context, particularly in Seama, there is a group that has been working on the possibility of having a specific ritual for the Amazonian region. This is a fact. On the other hand, there is also something that says the following guidance. Today in the Latin Church, we have the Roman Rite. And Roman rites must be enculturated in the different realities.
This is funny. I'm just pausing right here. The Roman rite must be enculturated in the different realities. Even the contextualized language that they choose, the diction, is ridiculously relativistic. It's relativistic. It's absurd. In different realities, because you live on one continent or another, you have a different reality. We need more volume all the way up. Okay. This makes no sense. I'm going to go back to Cardinal-elect Jaime Spangler with a weird woman's translation, which makes it sound like he's some sort of fruit boot dude. You know, I mean, it's just odd having a woman translator for a male cardinal elect. Just odd. But so they're saying, you know, so far that I guess it sounds like the debate. Remember from the Amazon Synod 5 years ago? That really got covered up, and now we're revisiting it. It was supposed to be women deacons, which was connected to the Amazonian rite somehow. Well, now they're saying, well, in this woman's voice, Jaime Spangler is saying, you know, we need to enculturate into all the different realities the Latin rite of the Mass. You know, so they can do their South American, whatever, rain dance sort of, you know, darkest Peru, Pachamama, hideous bitch goddess enculturation into their reality, because that's their reality. So we need to see whether or not it makes more sense to do a whole new rite, an Amazonian rite, or just let them really, really, really defile with their, you know, heart of darkness ways, the Latin rite. Because we like both options, is really what they're saying. We like the option of a brand new, absolutely modernist Pachamama sham of a new Amazonian rite. I mean, I'm reading the subtext here. But we also like the old way, which is just taking the Latin rite and defiling it and making it foobar, making it absolutely unrecognizable.
Personally, I think that we can explore this possibility in a more in-depth manner, that the Church herself provides in terms of enculturating the Roman rite. Of course, this requires the special...
Defile it more, she's saying. We need to explore defiling the Roman rite more with these, you know, armpit country, third world country, in the name of the Amazonian region, people that don't, you know, in a lot of cases have running water or electricity. We need to look to them to be the leaders of defiling the Latin rite Mass more before we just give them their own rite. But we also like the idea of giving them their own rite.
Sensitivity and an attention on the part of the involved parties, and also a readiness to find a way, a journey. Talking about the Amazon, how many peoples do we have here? How many cultures? How many different languages?
Who cares?
Finding a rite
Not me.
that can be typical of that region, a new rite. Well, I think...
Wait a minute, baby, sweetheart, sweet roll. Whatever, I'm addressing Jaime Spangler, who's a man cardinal, but whoever the sweet-lipped translator is, we have something that's a common culture, missiological culture, ecclesiological culture. We have a common missal. Say that again.
That can be typical of that region, a new rite. Well, I think...
We have a rite that's typical of the entire world. Baby lady. What's that called? That's called the Tridentine Latin Mass. Guess what? The whole point of it, the TLM, was that it's typical of all the regions in the world. And you know what? Remember that old question, oh, do we speak a dead language? Why do we teach Latin? Ecclesiastical Latin, which I came up here to the studio to do the show after teaching my children ecclesiastical Latin. I don't teach them classical Latin. I teach them ecclesiastical. The language of the church. There is one people spread throughout all the world who speak ecclesiastical Latin anymore. The church. There's no geographical region to which it pertains, but rather one people. The one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church. The four marks of the church guarantee, my friend, that there is one typical rite for all of the regions of the world, and that's the TLM that you're cutting up and sawing to bits and gluing parts of modernism onto, grafting off of it what you like, and only keeping the things that are amenable to what you think are amenable to modernism, getting rid of all the stuff that really binds Catholics together globally. One Catholic, holy, one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church. Those are the 4 marks of the church. It's one, and it's Catholic, lowercase c, means it's for all the regions of the world. The region of the world that we care about is all the regions of the world that are Catholic. So this regionalism business, where they're talking, look, I'm the #1 fan of subsidiarity in the world. Subsidiarity is the Catholic teaching on political power, how polities are supposed to be divided. That's local. The church is not subsidiarian. The church is one Holy Catholic Apostolic. It's global. And so is its mass, so much so that we retained the one language that no one else in the world speaks anymore in any other part of the world, the Latin, the ecclesiastical Latin Mass.
That this could be easier to find enculturation ways to enculturate the Roman Rite rather than the other solution. And by way of conclusion, I remember
the other solution she means is fabricate a whole new Amazonian rite out of whole cloth. Let's just destroy the Roman Rite even more. We didn't do that enough in the 70s.
During the Siama assembly, we had a Eucharistic celebration in which some indigenous people served at the altar in the different functions. And we followed the Roman Rite on that occasion.
What are you talking about? The opening of the Amazon Synod? Remember that little sham? That little blasphemous sham in the Vatican gardens? I think they're talking about something that happened during the actual Amazon Synod. But remember the opening of that Pachamama? Where indigenous peoples got to do their heart of darkness thing. Look, we pray for everyone. We're Christians. We love everyone, right? We want to convert all the world to the true one Holy Catholic Apostolic faith. But we don't need to be looking to darkest Peru or like the Andes or Chile or indigenous peoples who struggle daily to get clean food and clean water. That, think of I don't know. Remember that pyramid of survival? They don't have the tools to be dictating to us at the top of the pyramid. The most abstract, abstruse skill building is probably how to come up with a proper missile for the one true faith. These are people that worship the hideous bitch goddess called the Pachamama, and they still think they're Catholic. And the leaders, this, I guess, Jaime Spangler, what is this? Half German, half South American. That sounds a little fishy, doesn't it? Can anyone say DARPA? Jaime Spangler, Adolf Martinez, let's call this cardinal-elect Adolf Martinez, is saying, look, we need, from the very, very, very first world country of Germany or other first world countries of Northern Europe, we need to be looking at these people that still quite aren't sure how fire is made. These very, very indigenous, very, very prehistorical peoples who worship earth gods and goddesses. We need to look to them to teach us how to make our faith more polytheistic. That's what they're really talking about. And Francis said this right before the synod began. This synod. Now we're looking back 5 years to the Amazon Synod, but right before the Synod on Synodality session began on October the 2nd, he, a week and a half ahead of this, he said, basically Hindus worship the true God. They're polytheists. This is true religion. We can't say they're wrong. We can't say we're any more right than them. Same thing with these indigenous, pygmy people, like 4'6" people from the heart of Peru or whatever it is. They worship the god of whatever, goddess of spear throwing. Provide us with lots and lots of kills, with lots of prey when we throw spears at things, and we, give us clean water for once. We're going to pray to this demon goddess, Pachamama, who they actually brought into the Vatican to worship, to be worshipped at Mass. Remember this. That's the Amazon Synod. That's the most noteworthy thing that happened there. The most noteworthy thing that was supposed to happen was they're going to make lady deacons, which can't happen. We're going to talk about that later because there was news on that yesterday. But what ended up happening is actual false god worship inside the Vatican gardens, and then they brought that Pachamama hideous bitch goddess statue into one of the churches. And remember, this was right around the time this was happening the weekend I left Taylor Marshall's channel. You know, we had the Pachamama dunker. What was that guy's name? Alexander Teshugul?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander.
But the indigenous ministers, seeing the indigenous ministers doing what they were asked to do, probably not in the way we are used in our own realities.
There's that word again, realities. We're seeing them do this polytheistic stuff that we've been told in our own reality, our own Western white reality, that polytheism's bad. But Francis is here to say, look at the brown people of the world from third world countries, the indigenous peoples of the world. That's just part of their reality. And we want to bring that into the one true faith. I mean, this is outright polytheism. And Francis said it a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, so I don't know why I'm shocked or you are.
Was really something striking, the dignity, the reverence, the attention, the care, the way in which they were carrying out all the necessary actions was so remarkable. Being a part of this rite, I was so struck by this dignity, a dignity which sometimes we miss, we fail to notice, to realize in our celebrations, as solemn as they may be. So I was
well, here's why, sweetheart, sugar plum, that, and it's weird because again, this is Jaime Spangler with a woman's voiceover. Here's why we fail to note or reconnoiter the dignity you think is endemic to all of the, unwashed masses of the most third world places in the indigenous regions of the world, like the Amazon, because they are polytheists. Even the ones who think they're Catholic, they're polytheistic. They worship, Pachamama. Remember back when Catholic Answers was still lying about that in late 2019, saying, no, this is the Virgin Mary. And Pope Francis was like, no. I mean, how many times has this happened? Catholic Answers says that was something very, very, very orthodox. And shame on all of these people over here for saying it was heterodox. And then Francis was literally like the next day, no, it was heterodox. We were worshiping a false god. That was Pachamama of the Andes region. But you're wrong, Catholic Answers. Stop telling people that I'm being orthodox. I'm Pope Francis, and I'm here to bring in false gods to be worshipped inside the sanctuary. Remember that? See, a lot of you guys don't even remember. I mean, a lot of parish orphans and retrogrades you do. But a lot of the young crowd don't even know that this shit went down. I forget it half the time. But this was Amazon Synod, and it wasn't just at the opening ceremony, akin, but worse, to the opening ceremony of the Olympics this past summer. They brought that hideous bitch goddess, false god, demon god, Pachamama, into the church where Teshugul took it from. I never hear the younger crowd who defends Francis talking about that. Was Teshugul wrong? Pope Francis himself, the Vatican came out and clarified, this is a false god brought into the sanctuary for worship. They worshiped in Vatican gardens, and they put it up on the altar in a church. Yeah, it's hard. If you're chewing your food, you do a spit take if you don't know, or you think I'm just making it up. Well, where's the dignity? We often forget that these people worship with dignity. No, we don't forget it. It's not true. They are false god worshipers. That's why they want an Amazon rite. And all Spangler, Cardinal-elect Spangler is saying here, one of the new 21 cardinals who will become cardinal on, I think, December the 8th. announced by Francis on Sunday. They're like, where can we do more damage? Make up this whole new Amazon rite, which will probably be like, call it the Pachamama rite, because they're going to have all this indigenous shit in it. Or let's just do what we've been doing since 1970, since the Missal of Paul VI. Just take the Roman rite and just destroy it, defile it even further. I know I'm repeating myself.